It took me a year to figure it out. I was like, what is this college dropout kid with a lot of math skills going to do? And I ended up getting into digital marketing. Running a paid search campaign is very similar to running a poker campaign. There's 5 or 6 different KPIs. There's a human on the other side of it. I'm very thankful to my former boss, Sean Cotton, for taking a chance on college dropout. Got an entry-level job there, and he was my boss for 12 years. I was at a company for 2 years, True Media, and we decided to start a side project, a second agency within the True Media walls, and I was lucky to get chosen as the first employee of that company. We grew it from 1 to 75 employees, 0 to $60 million in annual recurring revenue, and they sold to private equity 2 years ago.
So feel me when I bring it, sing it loud. I'm from the Lou and I'm proud, run a mile for the cause, I'm right.
Hi guys, it's your girl Nechama, your favorite Jew from the Lou. Welcome back to my podcast. And today I'm super excited to have Ryan Green with us. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Also, I just think this is so hilarious that we're finally sitting here because how we got connected and how I finally got you here is just such a me story.
Yeah, we've flirted around for a while in several ways. Do you want to tell the story?
Do you remember how we initially connected? I don't know if you knew Brian Perspective. I don't think I ever told you.
Remind me.
I'll remind you. I don't think I ever told you, so it's be a new story for you too. So basically, 314 Digital was how we initially connected, in the sense that I became somewhat aware of who you are. You became like a familiar face, but I don't think we actually ever connected on there. But you're part of the board of 314 Digital. You help run the events and host and do all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So for me, working in marketing back in the day, we were allowed to leave the office to go to these events. So I was like, hell yeah, that's amazing.
I'm pretty sure that's why 80% of people go.
Yeah, and it's
so they don't have to work.
They're free for the most part.
They're free, yeah.
And so it's just a great way to network and pretend that you're this professional person. Because I think since I started, I was pretending because I started my career so
We're
early.
all pretending. It's fine.
I was 20 when I graduated college. Mm-hmm. So I think I just never got over in my head that I'm an adult. I always feel like I can't believe people are taking me seriously. And
you were just saying that you didn't want to adult before you started recording.
This is true.
Maybe we're still in that mindset.
I'll unpack that a little bit. But then it turns out you and I went to the same gym.
Yep.
Okay. So you were going to the same gym, and for some reason, I had it in my head that you were somebody else, because the company that I worked for at the time had just done this whole professional video about the company for the new website. And I wasn't part of that process, but I saw the team working on it. And whoever did the video did such a great job, and I thought it was you. And so I went over to you at the gym, and I was like, great job in the video. That was so awesome. And you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then that's when I was like, well, how do I know you? And that's
because you have introduced yourself at 314 Digital events, so I knew your face.
Right.
And I probably did some video for them. So I might have been like, oh yeah, the video that you did for 314.
Yeah. So it was just a random interaction, but then once you break the ice of getting to know someone, and I think for me in general, a lot of times, I think this is just human nature, you see someone somewhere without officially meeting them, and then when you see them in a different setting, that's what gets you to break the ice and get to know someone.
Yeah, 2 or 3 different places, and you're like, okay, this person's familiar with me. They're not random. They've moved from random to acquaintance.
Right.
And then acquaintance to friend.
Right. And I think I tried to get you on the podcast. It must have been at least a year or 2 ago. I remember.
And I said no, or I ignored you?
You didn't ignore me.
I ghosted?
You didn't ghost me. I remember this clearly because I totally bombarded you. You were on the treadmill, and I went straight up to you, and I was like, hey, I know you're working out. Don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm just planting a seed. Would love to have you on as a guest one day.
I don't remember that whatsoever.
At all?
When I'm working out, I'm in my own.
It could be that's what happened.
Place.
But even then, you were just like, I'll think about it.
That's shocking to me because I had a podcast at that
Yeah.
time too. So like,
I don't know. Maybe there was just stuff going on. Maybe you didn't know what the podcast was, and if it was like,
if it doesn't come in an email or calendar invite, it's hard. It's hard to get me.
I understand that now, by the way, because
Yeah.
now if it's not a Google Calendar invite, I
Yeah,
will
you
forget.
you text me Google Calendar invites. So
And wasn't that helpful?
it is.
I know.
Now I know.
Right. So, but then we reconnected because I left corporate to pursue
Mhm.
my passion, which is opening up my own coffee shop,
Mm-hmm.
Lake Cafe.
I also.
He's
That's
drinking my honey Colombian as
It's
a pour
wonderful.
over. It's limited
Of course,
edition.
as a pour over it. When you listed the things that you could do for coffee, I picked the most time consuming one. So
Yeah, but
I am
anyone.
high maintenance.
Okay, but that's all perspective because this is literally my joy to make people coffee. And anyone knows that, like, if you're going to have a quality coffee, a pour over is the best way to experience. So, no problem. It's my joy.
I only have pour over at my house and an espresso
Okay,
machine. I don't
okay.
know.
Do you have a Breville?
No, it is Italian name that I can't think of. It's not a Breville though.
Is it a La Marzocco?
No, that's too fancy.
That's too fancy. So, step
Yeah.
in between a
It was
Breville
in
and a
between.
Marzocco.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. So anyways, I think it's funny because you also told me that like your far off distant dream is to open a coffee shop.
That is the
Retirement dream?
maybe a retirement dream, or I don't want to say backup plan because that's not correct. But like, if I wanted to get out of digital marketing and AI and automation and this, do something that's tangible in the real world, I always will refer to just opening the coffee shop.
Yeah.
With friends. They know that that's a representation of doing something tangible and not something in this like digital realm.
Yeah, fair. I mean, the truth is, even though I've left marketing as a career behind, the truth is anyone who has any brains in their head at all knows that marketing is a part of any business, any personal relationship too. Marketing is something that's going to help you be a successful person.
Yeah, marketing is almost like breathing now. Everybody
Mhm.
is a marketer, a content creator, curating their own brand, having their own aesthetic, having their own logos and labels for things. Certainly anybody running a business, but even people who, are just active on social media have their own brand. And I think understand that quite a bit. What I always tell people when they're thinking about what they should major in when they go into college, always to focus on something that they couldn't learn in the real life, right? You should be able to understand journalism from watching the news or reading the newspaper. Marketing is probably something that you can understand by just absorbing what brands do. And they're so transparent at this point. I don't know if I would necessarily encourage people to go to college for marketing. I think that's something you could learn on your own. Just like people who get into the humanities and want to understand, literature, just go read the books. I don't know. It seems a lot cheaper to me, especially when you have YouTube and you have, the collective intelligence of the internet through AI.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes more and more choosy what you need to pay somebody to teach you. And to me, it would be like being an electrician is not something that you're going to necessarily pick up on the internet, right? Being a plumber, doing some of those more tangible things, right? The art of making a latte. Sure, you can watch a video on it, but to like actually, become good at that.
No, it's
those physical
true.
things.
Like, for example, you can learn, a lot of people nowadays get their little espresso machines at home and they're like, I'm a barista. And as someone who is currently a barista, I would say kind of. But first of all, commercial machines are a totally different beast.
Sure.
They make me so annoyed with home espresso machines because I feel like it's the Keurig of coffee machines. Like I know what I'm capable of doing as a barista, and I find that like the Breville, for example, is limiting.
Yeah.
And so
that's why I didn't get the Breville too. I
really
wanted to pretend like I was
It
a
has to be
barista, and I had the full puck and everything, like,
yeah.
but I know that I'm just barely scratched the surface, and it's a means to an end of something I can.
It's a leg up over the average coffee drinker.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the day that I felt like I was a barista was when we got a rush at the coffee shop.
Sure.
And I made over 60 drinks in under 30 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the day that I became a barista. When your brain turns off.
Yep.
And it's that muscle memory. And like my coworker, I was like, don't talk to me. I'm in the zone. I'm going to get this done. And I'm just looking at that screen with all the orders just piling up and just whipping them out.
Mm-hmm.
And also being able to maintain the cleanliness of my space at the same time.
You were in a flow state.
I was, and it was glorious. And that was the day that I became a barista. And I think that's kind of like true with marketing and really with a lot of things, but specifically marketing. I think it's very human in the sense that there's a lot of statistics and logic and things that you can learn on the back end.
Yeah.
But there's also like the feel for the actual human consumer and then understanding what they want, how they interact with the product, but then also with social media, let's say, how do you get their attention? Understanding people, sometimes you have to put the human behind the science.
There's a lot of disciplines now that are a mix of art and science. Marketing has always been one of those. I have an unorthodox background. I'm a college dropout. I've already dissed on college.
I know. I was thinking that was kind of ironic that you were saying, like, I don't know if people need to pay to be in marketing. Not that I'm anyone to.
Not that I'm a case study of that or anything, but
you are, though.
I am.
Yeah, you've done quite well in marketing, and you were a college dropout.
So I was a college dropout, and then I was a professional internet poker player for 7 years.
So let's go back and talk about how that all came to be.
I deposited $100 into a poker site and turned it into 50 grand. And I thought, wow, this is a lot of money. I can just do this. And I did it for 7 years. $50,000 is not a lot of money, right?
But if you take 100 and turn it into 50,000.
I did that right when,
hit.
It's a dopamine hit for sure. But I did that right when internet poker was just starting and there was a lot of bad players. So it kind of fooled me into thinking that I could do this forever. That was certainly not true. Over the 7 years that I did, the games got harder. I had to get better to maintain a similar amount of income. But it was that combination of art and science, right? I was running a database in the background that, analyzed the 2 million hands of poker that I'd played. I had put the stats on top of my opponents on what their tendencies were, but there's a human behind it. And not every decision, even with perfect analytics that you would have in a game like poker, can be drawn down to a mathematical equation. A lot of times it is feel and vibes and instinct and your intuition that makes decisions. That definitely is true with marketing. That's even true not just with like advertising that I was, that I'm more of an expert in, but even fields like market research that you would think, hey, if we do a quantitative study and 100 people, we interview 300 people and 250 of them say that they want this. Well, people don't always act on what they say they're going to do. Human behavior and what comes out of your mouth are two different things, right?
Oh, yeah.
So there's even more intuition and art, I would say, even in something that seems rudimentary like market research, where it seems like it would just be very obvious that the brands and the businesses that sometimes ignore that what the numbers say and what the spreadsheet tells us end up doing better. We make a lot of short-term decisions based on what the numbers tell us, and I think it's a detriment. Look at like Southwest Airlines. I mean, they've had a competitive niche for 40 years against the other airlines. by having flags or bags fly free, by not having by having more direct flights in places like St. Louis. They had 3 bad quarters, maybe 5 bad quarters or something, and they decided to basically turn into another Delta or American Airlines.
Yeah.
And yeah, they had a couple bad quarters, and I'm sure they lost a couple $1 billion. But that's 40 years of doing of a strategy that worked, that
Yeah,
they
it's
were
a
just
proven concept.
ignored based on short-term spreadsheet thinking.
I think fear really plays into like a lot of decisions, right? Because I mean, we forget sometimes, but every business are just people, right?
Yeah.
And so everyone,
Groups of people.
right? People just want to be successful in the end of the day. And so the founder and like the leadership team needs to really stay strong on that vision, because if they start to get weak, that's when you can start to flow to, oh, maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that. And then that's when they morph and they don't stay true to who they are. I think there's definitely, in my opinion, like 2 different types of like marketing strategies, which is one where you see what's working based on the case studies, based on the research, based on how, you know, people and consumers tend to buy and interact with different brands. And so you're like, okay, well, this is what seems like successful, that seems safe, so let's go with that. And then there's like the rare brands who are like, no, we're going to tell the consumers what they want and what they need. For example, my family friend, she told a quote that we all know, which is, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, right?
Yes.
Which I think a lot of people in marketing feel that stress where you're like, hey, we're doing all the right things. Why aren't they buying? Why aren't they interacting? But she's like, but you can make them thirsty. And I love that little addition, you know? So it's like, how do you make people who already have their habits and already have their brands that they trust and they like, you have to build that trust first with them by being consistent, by showing up. But then also it's like, how do you make it as easy for them as possible and be like, no, I really want this. Just little tweaks like that, you know?
Yeah, because people make decisions not based on what they say, but on what they do. When
Right.
they will drink water when they're thirsty, not when you show them a bottle of water.
For sure. Like even, for example, a small tweak that I've done recently with my personal website for my coffee brand was that I switched it to have free shipping. And I worked the prices out so that makes sense for me and I'm not like at a complete loss, you know? But
You baked it into the cost of
yeah,
goods.
because even if people logically understand what I'm doing, the human mind is crazy. If people are going on my website, they already know it's a premium coffee, so they're expecting it to be a little pricier than something maybe you would find at Walmart. So they're like, okay, and maybe they like me, they like what I stand for, they like that I give back to charity every month. So they're like, okay, I'll pay a little more of a premium price for this. But then when they go to their shopping cart to check out and they see that additional $7, $8 for shipping, and in addition to that, it's not express 1 to 2 days shipping.
Yep.
There's that annoyance on their end where they're like, there's that pause, which is the worst thing you could possibly happen when you're trying to do a sale. That, do I really need this right now? How important is this for me? And so that was one thing where I'm like, okay, thinking like a consumer. So how do I make this as easy as possible? Well, there's something weird about the human brain. They see free shipping and they get excited. They're like, oh, what a steal. If you know that the products you get, that price is what you get from the time that you click on it to the time that you check out, it's a great feeling. And then another thing I switched to doing was I started doing a subscription where people who like higher quality coffees tend to like to try different brands. So I was like, well, instead of, and like, if it's not all on one website, then how do I get people to keep coming back? Because it needs to be as easy as possible. But if they do a subscription and maybe they get my coffee every 2 months, they could still experiment with other coffees, but mine is still part of the rotation and they don't even have to think about coming back. Plus they get 15% off the original price if they use the subscription. So it's cheaper for them to subscribe.
Life is fast, but every now and then you deserve a pause. a moment that's just for you.
At Lake Cafe, we believe that each cup of coffee should taste like a little bit of luxury. Handcrafted and locally roasted here in St. Louis, each of our single origin beans are carefully selected to give you the most unique and smoothest experience. Whether you like a light, medium, or dark roast, we got you. For those busy mornings or for my coffee lovers who prefer efficiency, we also have K-Cups. So go ahead and pour yourself a cup that tastes like self-care. Visit www.lakecafe.us to bring the cafe experience home. Lake Cafe, you deserve it.
How's that been working? It's you have to have buy-in from some other coffee brands too?
No, it's just subscribing to mine.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if they're choosing to buy from other coffee brands, whether it's a local coffee shop that they really like or something else. But I just tell people, I'm like, oh, just this way, I'm part of your subscription.
Got it.
I'm part of your rotation.
Mm-hmm.
This is just another subscription that you have.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Little things like that. But it's like, instead of being frustrated that like, why are people not going on to like my website? Why are people not checking out? It's more of like, well, what can I do to get into the mind of someone who's just freshly going on? And I utilized AI. I went onto ChatGPT and I took a bunch of screenshots of my website. I said, I want you to be ruthless.
Yeah.
I want you to act like the most, budget friendly, but like really into coffee.
Pretend like you're Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah.
Tearing up the.
Yeah, like you're coming in here and you're like, why should I buy this? I don't know her. I don't know this brand. Like, why would I want to be here?
And all of what you were talking about isn't mentioning conversion rates or a funnel or any of this stuff. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe you are, seeing a low conversion rate, or you saw a hiccup with shipping. So I'm not saying that's not a data informed decision of what you're talking about, but that's not, the consumers don't think of themselves as part of a marketing funnel. They don't understand if they're getting an awareness ad or a retargeting spot or any of it, right? It's the story. It's how it fits into their life.
Right.
It's
and
not
how easy and convenient is it?
Yeah.
Because as adults, we're all so busy. We have a million things going on.
Mm-hmm.
So in the back of your mind, if you know someone's doing something, you're like, oh, I will one day.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, months go by, like nothing's happening. And I put myself in the perspective of, there's a brand that I love, which is Mary Ruth's liquid multivitamin.
Okay.
When I first got introduced to that brand, it popped up on my Instagram. They got me. And I kept seeing it. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I don't like taking pills, but like I know I should be taking like multivitamins. So I love the concept of just taking like a half a shot glass every morning and I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, I don't know. And I just kept scrolling. But eventually it kept coming back on. So it was that consistency, was that in my face. And then it probably was like a good few months before I finally like clicked on the ad and I saw the price and I was like, absolutely not. And then I left the website, but I kept still getting those ads because now I've interacted, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually I was like, well, let me try it once. There was a sale.
Black Friday sale.
So yeah, it's half the price. You'll never see it this cheap again. So I tried it and I love it. And now I buy it every month.
Yeah.
So it takes time. So you have to really like, just because you don't get instant results, I think that's kind of the other thing where like from a business perspective, we're also still consumers. We're used to getting everything instantly nowadays. But
businesses, too many businesses think of paid advertising and probably marketing in general like a slot machine.
Mm-hmm.
They want to put $1 in and they want to get $4 out.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to prove which pull of the slot machine was the one that did it. And that's not what you're describing. Honestly, one of the numbers that legitimately matter that don't get talked about enough is just frequency, right? I'm not suggesting that businesses should have 200 impressions in front of any individual, but it takes time and it's more of a slow drip a lot of the time, even to get a $50 sale for multivitamin, right? Like that your lifetime value now that you're a recurring customer is several $100s for that company. But if they thought oh, this person didn't click on the first ad that they saw or the fifth ad they saw, we're done. Now there's a lot of companies that give up too quickly on marketing. There's some that know that they need to have proper frequency, but it does get overkill. On Instagram, I'm not sure why, because I don't drink that much, but like I get bombarded with these like pre-drink, don't get a hangover shots.
Okay, that's hilarious.
I don't even know what is Ziotics or something, but like it's 1 out of 3 ads that I get. And I'm
Wow.
I'm not sure what the targeting mechanism. Never clicked on any of it, and they have a different ad creative that comes through each time. But man, I can't flick that thing off fast enough. Like I'm not interested in that product. So there is some point that there's a sweet spot. Most brands don't even come close to having the patience needed. The same way Southwest didn't have enough patience to ignore their activist investor. But there are some brands on the other end that like don't get the hint either.
Yeah.
And that's part of the art of storytelling within advertising, is to get the right frequency and maybe different channels. I don't know. The only time I get the shot thing is specifically on Instagram. But I consume media in many a place.
Yeah.
So I don't know why that's.
It must have been something that you
Something
interacted with once, and the algorithm was like, that's his
The
style.
algorithm is so, even like, not even in an advertising perspective, but like on Reddit, I clicked on a watch, and somebody wanted to know if it was a real or a fake watch. Just one time. Now, for the last 3 weeks, a ton of watches on my algorithm for Reddit. I'm not interested in watches. I clicked one time. Gosh,
That's
guys,
all it
like the
takes.
over optimization to clicks
Yeah.
is really a detriment to everything we're talking about here.
Right. Because it can work on someone like me eventually where I'll buy it. And I think that's the hope behind that. But
Yeah.
you're right. Once you click on something,
One
it's the end.
effing click.
That's
like
it.
I'm like, man.
I will say it's not easy, but you can train the algorithm. Like there was a time where I just kind of wanted to get a refresh on like what I was seeing on Instagram. And so like it took like a few days of me like, you know, on your For You page, you can like right click and say, don't want to see this style.
Yes.
So like that takes time and having the energy and the effort to want to do that. Because I think most of us, when we're on the doom scroll season, if you will, of the day, that we're not really interested in like working. We just want to mindlessly scroll. But it's worth it if you want to kind of reshoot some stuff.
Yeah, and that's one way to help train your algorithm. I think it was and I know why the companies have discouraged this, but I really wish that they'd be a little bit more open-minded to the human being able to put some parameters on an algorithm.
Oh, interesting.
That why couldn't it say, hey, like Instagram doesn't do this anymore, but like I had a lot of bikini babes coming up, a lot of thirst traps, and it was offensive to me. Like I'm like, yeah, I'm a single dude, but like I'm sure I clicked on 1 or 2. I'm guilty, sorry, right? But like that was a third of what I was getting because of 2 clicks, and I'm like, that's get that. Like I should have to be like, I don't want my feed to be. I don't want to be used like that, right?
I will say, if it makes you feel any better, I think that those sex sells, right?
Sure.
So those kinds of like.
But it was getting to points where it was like, I think you're putting teenagers in front of me here. That I don't like
that's
that.
Creepy.
That makes me feel uncomfortable.
That's creepy.
I don't know where the line is.
When I first got on Instagram, before I had like looked up certain types of things, like whether it was like interior design or coffee, like my algorithm was like majority coffee now.
Yeah.
Obviously. But like I am a woman and I'm straight, and like I was getting that kind of stuff when I first created my account too. And
Yeah.
I'm like, ew, like, do you think that I'm a dude? Like, why are you showing me this stuff? This is so weird.
Mhm.
So if it makes you feel better, I think it might.
Everybody's getting it.
I think initially, until you've kind of trained your algorithm, if you will, I think they just assume that like that's what the average user wants, which is wild.
Well,
But
and
you
I
know,
think for a lot of
Pinterest-
women, they're also, or for female users, it's picking up on vulnerabilities and insecurities that women have about their own body image and stuff. Like seeing those other women on there, and like there's a lot of.
Can we talk about this for a minute? Because
Yeah.
this is intriguing. So I'm 29. When I was 23, I had a life coach, and we decided to do a challenge because I was incredibly addicted to social media. So he's like, why don't you try just going off of social media for like 1 week? And I'm an Aries, love a challenge. So I was like, done. And so I went off of it for 1 week, and it was such a peaceful week
Yeah.
that I was like, what if I push it to like 2 weeks? And this was before my podcast. It was before my coffee brand. I was just an average corporate girly. So I was like, okay, why don't I just keep pushing it? And I ended up being off Instagram for a whole year.
Yeah.
And it was so crazy talking about how women get influenced by what they see on social media, because especially with seeing like the highlight reels of how perfect everybody looks.
Yep.
And then also all the filters and all that kind of stuff and the angles and everything like that. Like everyone looks perfect. So then the average woman is like, I mean, I thought I looked good, but apparently this is what everyone looks like. Because back in like early 2000s, you had that kind of pressure, but it was from magazines and like billboards. It wasn't like inundated like it is with social media.
Yeah.
And so when I was off of that for a year, my style changed, my makeup changed, my perception on beauty changed.
Sure.
I used to look at women and I'd be like, why isn't everyone wearing like full face of like loads of makeup, like full on glam makeup every day? I'm like, everyone looks better like that. And now I appreciate the full glam look, but I also think people look really beautiful in their natural faces. It just depends on what you're wanting.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting how distancing myself from that totally changed my interest.
I had a year off Instagram, and I don't think my style changed.
Yeah.
But I know my like expectation of what female beauty looks like changed.
Really?
Yes.
That's
absolutely.
interesting too. Okay. So
Absolutely.
you have,
Right.
similar.
So there, I think it's pretty well documented, the ills of social media on women, but it fucks with men's brains too. Right. And not in the same way or maybe with the same intensity, but it still does. And it's something that we should think about a little bit more, both genders, on how we perceive each other. Because it hurts.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Food for thought.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to circle back
Sure.
because I totally took the conversation away from you.
It's okay.
And I want to go back to like your OG story of like how you got into all this. So question, timeline wise, when you were playing internet poker, was that before or after you dropped out of college?
I started playing internet poker in college.
In college.
Yeah.
Did that cause you to drop out of college?
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay. So what happened there? Was it because you were making that money and you're like, why am I in school, or what?
Yeah, I think I had a rebellious streak naturally anyways.
Okay. What's your zodiac sign?
A Leo.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's funny because a guy once said to me, we were having a conversation. I was like, what's your zodiac sign, about something we were talking about? And he's like, I'm not telling you because whatever I say, you're going to be like, that checks out. That makes sense. He's like, don't put that on me.
You can put it on me. It's
I was
fine.
like, it's fine.
I think I was born at 8 a.m, if that matters.
It does matter, but
Somebody has asked me to.
Because there's
Old coworkers did, so I think they were trying to figure out how to angle with me or something. I don't know.
I'm sorry, I have raging ADD. This is why this conversation is going to go all over the place. But side note, just for you to understand for yourself about zodiacs, I personally am not a believer on like reading horoscopes and like making my decisions based on the sun and the moon and all those kinds of things, right? However, when I'm getting to know someone, or I'm working with someone, I think having that frame of reference of knowing their zodiac sign, there's certain like personality traits that helps me understand them. For example, with my coffee shop, my business partner, he's a Virgo. He's very logical, detail oriented, no frills kind of guy. And if I didn't know that he was a Virgo, I would just think he's an asshole. But because I know he's a Virgo, I know how to like present things to him, and I know how to like
Is that
interact
the same
with
with Leos, that we're assholes because we're
Leos tend
trying
to
to be domineering or something?
I don't know about that. I mean, I'll be honest, like I'm not an expert at the top of my head. It's more of like when I find out someone is something, then I'll start doing my little research and be like, because a Leo man is different than a Leo woman. And then depending on the year you were born, the time, where in the world you were born, then it's like, so for example, I'm an Aries sun, a Libra moon, and a Gemini rising. All these things matter because like to be just a stereotype Aries, there's a lot of things about me that don't make sense with an Aries. But if you put all my signs together, you're like, okay, as a whole, we can understand her.
There's I've moved over my life from being like a pretty hardcore atheist to an agnostic person to probably a loosely spiritual person. So I'm more open-minded to
That's
a lot of different ways of interpreting the world, right? So 10 years ago, I would have just dismissed
everything I just said.
Anything you just said.
Fair.
You know, I also think of it, the horoscope signs, it's kind of similar to the like a Myers-Briggs test. Or some of the personality, but the Enneagram is another popular one. It's ways that it's an effort to try to understand yourself and to understand somebody across from you. And making that effort, whether it's however it's expressed, is something we should celebrate, because I think there's a lot of people that aren't trying to make that effort, or that are trying to judge somebody on
whether it's
the last a 15-second clip that got on social, or something that was taken out of context, or something that just the vibe that somebody gives off. And those are all fine too, right? Like, I'm not saying the worst, but a lot of times that's the worst of somebody, or the very peak and best of somebody too. So making that effort to try to understand somebody across the seat from you completely, that's a noble endeavor. As long as it doesn't become an obsession, which can happen too, and it can get too deep. But if you're doing an intermediate job, I want to understand somebody. I'm trying to a couple different angles. It's an important relationship. You know, whether it's at work or in your personal life. I think that's, as long as it doesn't become an obsessive, or too concrete of thing. Well, this person's a Leo, so they have to be this, right? As long as there's flexibility within that, I think it's a good.
I think there's nature versus nurture, right? So, like for example, your signs, if you will, they might be it's a roadmap, is how I look at it. It's a basic roadmap, but then you personally, as an individual, I think it's important to get to know that person as well, because you can't just look someone's signs up and be like, oh, I understand you as a person and we're good. Like,
it's like the analytics versus the art part of it too, right? Like if your analytics on your Myers-Briggs says that you're ENTG, and then that means that you're a born leader or something. I mean, okay. But you can use that within, maybe that's the hard facts about somebody, but you can use that in context to fill out the
because even let's say with for me, where I come from, I grew up very like religious. I grew up as an Orthodox Jew, and there's still a lot of that's a part of me and who I am now. I'm still very much like identify as Jewish, but I also am more like spiritual.
I mean, you have that in your podcast
literally
title,
I know. So. But I'm very like spiritual as well. I feel like I came more from like, I don't want to say rigid, but religion.
Orthodox Jews are pretty rigid.
There's the laws and the Torah, and it is what it is, and God says to do what you do, and that's it. But I think I've found more of like, I say Jews for joy. So that's kind of where I'm at now. But like, for example, I find the whole zodiac thing fascinating. Where I struggle with is like, I have some friends who are very steeped in it. And so, like, for example, they won't want to do a certain project on a certain day because the stars aren't aligned.
Yeah, that's not that's what I was saying, is that it gets too deep.
And so for me, I'm like, that's where I have an issue with it personally. Yeah. So I think it's like everything in moderation. Okay. So diving back into this conversation, so you got into the internet poker and you left college behind.
I did, yes.
Do you regret not finishing college?
No, okay. I don't regret not finishing college. I regret starting.
How long were you actually in college for?
3 years.
So you were almost done.
I know.
Wow.
Kind of silly. I did at one point go back and do another semester that I just paid out of pocket for, but I didn't finish, and I didn't need to. I don't. I look back at things I didn't do with regret, not things that I did do. I learned a lot about life and about a mechanism, like a frame in which to look through things.
Yeah.
Poker's a great frame to analyze decisions. I still use it as a way to teach executive thought, basically, to people. I mean, I'm partnering with in my business currently with the former CMO of Best Buy and Wynn Resorts, Scott Moore, great guy. And I use poker in analyzing how certain interactions went, and we use that as a comparative tool to try to help each other become better at business and better executives, and to make smarter decisions and kind of understand in more high stakes situations how to think about what's going on, because it's a dynamic game. So like, I wouldn't have necessarily learned that in college. I met a lot of great people at Mizzou. I did go back and was an adjunct professor for 4 semesters there. So I feel like
cool.
If it came up on a resume, I could just be like, well, I didn't finish, but I did. They did let me, teach at the School of Journalism, one of the top 10 journalism schools in the country or whatever. I don't regret not finishing. I regret paying money and not getting the certificate at the end, I suppose. But that's fine.
It's part of life.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer too, where it's like, okay, yes, granted, you didn't get the certificate, you didn't walk across the stage, whatever.
Yeah.
But no one can take away the knowledge and the skills that you gained from those 3 years.
Yeah.
It's not for nothing.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So it's like this whole concept of being a college dropout. I think it's more about like, but then what did you do with your life afterwards, right? Because if you dropped out, became a dud, and like became an alcoholic or a drug addict or something, and like
which could have happened too, right?
For sure, but it didn't.
Correct.
So it's like, just to say someone's a college dropout doesn't necessarily equate that they're not going to be successful. The same as just because you got a college degree doesn't equate that you're going to be successful.
Yeah. And that's certainly true in 2025 more than it was in 2005, right?
Yeah.
The value of college it's there. I mean, it's certainly there for a lot of people and in a lot of situations, but not all of them.
I know, it's intriguing. I think it depends on your degree and like what career you're going into. Obviously, like we were talking about earlier, if you're becoming an electrician, if you are becoming a doctor, if you're becoming a lawyer, right? Mm-hmm. Certain careers, I think you will always need to study and go to school and get those degrees. But
nursing,
yeah.
I would almost even put history in there, which is probably something you could learn on the internet for free too. But now, especially with AI aggregating everything, truth may not just live in what pops out on generative AI or on the internet. So like the truth-seeking people to understand what actually may have happened in history. History is painted by the winners a lot of times too. So
for sure, it's his story.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's I always have a great respect for Howard Zinn, who's a historian that wrote a people's history of the United States, so trying to take the vantage point of the people who don't write history, the common person, the women, the slaves in our history. That's a great book to read.
Yeah, I just saw recently, speaking of, it was saying how like I think it just said that it marks 50 years since women can open their own bank
Yeah,
accounts
that's fucked up. Yeah.
without a man. I'm like, 50 years is not
I
that
know.
long.
It's not that long.
That's crazy. And then I was also thinking about my own bank account. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm the best example.
You have a bank account in a business. You are a great example. Don't
Yeah.
don't say that. But yeah, 50 years. People, and I'm becoming more interested in history as I get older, I'm sure, because of how recent things were. Like the railroad expansion, which was the only thing comparable to the amount of GDP on one new thing, the way that generative AI is dominating our GDP right now.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go back to the railroad expansion in the 1830s. That was not that long ago, guys. 1830 was not that long ago. And there's
Right.
plenty of history to be seen.
But I just like, I'm curious to know. So you were on this like winning streak, if you will, with your poker career.
Mm-hmm.
How did you end up coming to marketing? What drew you into that world?
On April 15th, 2011, they outlawed
so
internet
specific.
poker.
That is so specific. 2015?
2011.
2011. Okay.
April 15th, tax day.
Yeah, I know my dad was
Black
a
Friday.
CPA, so
Yeah.
April 15th was definitely a day that we knew. Forever live in infamy.
Internet poker was always in a little bit of a legal gray area. The companies were offshore, but the bank accounts, the money flowed, and they stopped the money from flowing. So I was already starting to get a little itchy. Like, I was 27, 26 or something. And I was like, am I really going to just play poker in my room for the rest of my life here? Is this really it? Like, just playing a game. I'm not helping society, right? Like, it was very rewarding to be able to just log in and be able to play a game and make a lot of money and go travel.
Your
And it was
brain also,
wonderful.
think about the timing of it
Yeah.
too. Like they say, like now they've upped it to 26, but they say like the adult brain isn't
Yeah.
fully, your frontal
That's
lobe
correct.
isn't formed until you're like 25, 26.
Yeah.
So here you are, your brain is
That's
fully
right.
formed, ready to go, and you're
Yeah.
like, what impact am I making on
Well,
society?
and that's why I do appreciate from 20 to 26 that my brain did develop that way, because it developed a very complex, intricate, high-level cognitive thinking that I still rely on today. But I was still just playing a game, sitting in my robe and on my laptop, right? Like,
and that can't feel good for your own like mental
yeah, at some
psyche.
point, I'm like, I gotta
Get out of the house.
Yeah. I was averaging the last year. I made about $80,000 the last year I played, and I averaged playing about 15 hours a week, which is great. I had a lot of free time, but like, I felt like a stay-at-home mom. I'd go to the gym at 10:30, and it'd be all the other moms that were there, right? Like,
yeah.
I was like, I need more than this. So I was already flirting with leaving, and then that came out. So then I had a choice. Like, I get a VPN and a Canadian bank account and try to like sneak around and still keep playing, or I could move on to something else. And I decided to move on to something else. It took me a year to figure it out. I was like, what is this college dropout kid with a lot of math skills going to do? And I ended up getting into digital marketing. Running a paid search campaign is very similar to running a poker campaign. There's 5 or 6 different KPIs. There's a human on the other side of it. I'm very thankful to my former boss, Sean Cotton, for taking a chance on college dropout. Got an entry-level job there, and he was my boss for 12 years. I was at a company for 2 years, True Media, and we decided to start a side project, a second agency within the True Media walls, and I was lucky to get chosen as the first employee of that company. We grew it from 1 to 75 employees, $0 to $60 million in annual recurring revenue, and they sold to private equity 2 years ago.
Wow. So then from there, how did you get involved with 314 Digital?
So I lived in Columbia, Missouri
Mm-hmm.
when we started, when I started at True Media, and then we formed Coegi out of Columbia. We opened an office in Minneapolis. So I went up there to help open the office in 2018. I moved back to St. Louis January 2020, right before the pandemic. And I wanted to get back involved in the marketing community. I went to a couple of the events and they said, hey, we're looking for people to join the board. So I joined.
I can't believe how like recent this is.
Yeah.
When I was coming on to 314 Digital just as, another marketeer coming through, I just like, you see people as part of a board and sometimes in your brain you're like, oh, they must have been here forever. Like you don't realize like how recent the timeline was.
So when 314 Digital started, I was in Columbia and I would come to a couple of the events. It's only a 2-hour drive.
Oh,
And-
only?
Yeah, only 2 hours.
Okay.
And in fact, 1 year, very early in Coegi's startup days, maybe when there was like 8 to 12 of us, we basically used 314 Digital as our Christmas party. So we got hotel rooms, and we kind of used that as the anchor for our end of year celebration.
That's so smart.
Yeah.
Might as well if you're making a 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun.
That's really cool.
So I knew it from some interactions I had previously, and it was still going, and they were needing volunteers. So
yeah.
I thought, why not?
And then on a personal note, during the pandemic, that's also when you found out you were becoming a father.
That's correct. Yeah, I had a pandemic baby, which wasn't planned, but has been a blessing. I think especially I know it's certainly different for women that are carrying a child for 9 months, but it's a sacred responsibility for men when you become a father, I think. Outside of the 25-year-old adult brain, I would say something similar happens when you become a father too. Your brain chemistry changes. Not the same amount that it changes for women, but it does for men too. And it definitely changed my perspective and my focus in a lot of different ways.
What's so intriguing?
Yeah.
This past weekend, we were eating with family friends, and the husband was saying that like he's talked to like some of his guy friends about how if they like lived together with their partner before they were married and then they got married and had kids, they're like, a lot of women will be like, yeah, nothing really changed. Like if we lived together beforehand, it's like maybe we made dinner a little fancier in the beginning and like played house a little more, but then it's just like whatever. It's like once you live with someone, it's like nothing really changes just because you got married. But like the men all said that when they got married, everything changes. And I was like, I think I know why. I think it's because once the man makes that commitment where he's like, I'm all in, I'm gonna be a husband and father. If you go into that provider protector mode, where it's like, now I have this responsibility to take care of my family and to think about my legacy. And so I think that's a huge rewiring. And what was so intriguing to me, and if you're comfortable sharing this too, because I think it's really impactful for everyone, is like you didn't even want to be a father.
No.
Yeah.
And there's and that's a common thing that's happening in the United States, and I think in a lot of first world countries. The declining birth rates, that's a choice.
It's a conversation.
That's a choice men and women are making. There's a litany of reasons. And I respect all those reasons too. Like if that's not in your path, wasn't in my path. But kind of going back to agnostic or spiritual or definitely more of a Darwin type person. Well, if you're believe in evolution, we're supposed to survive and procreate, and that second half is part of a full life. It is. And you don't have to live that part of the life. You could be very happy, I'm sure. Dual income, no kids. Think, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Go
Yeah.
for it. And you should, right?
Yeah.
But making the other, whether it's on accident or not, making the other choice, it shows faith in humanity. It shows that you're willing to do something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're probably right to some degree about some switch flipping with a lot of men. I was a glorified teenager, I think, until James came, right? I wouldn't have been a college dropout internet poker player guy that was just, having variable income, right? I have variable income now as a consultant, to some degree, but it definitely changes your focus and your reason for being. And it's important. I don't know, like, you don't want to be single in your 40s and 50s and 60s, right?
Mhm.
Like, I mean, you can go for it, Playboy life, have fun, right?
There's so
But it's
many reasons. It's
yeah.
individualistic for sure, but I think there's a few factors from conversations that I've had with people, and this is just my understanding of everyone's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm going to be so bold,
Sure.
is that I think that some people have gone through trauma in their own childhood. And so then they're like, or they look at the world and the state of the world. And they're like, I don't want to bring a
The
child.
state of the world is
Yeah. Or like, I know this fabulous woman, she's in her 80s. She never got married, never had any kids. She had a very traumatic upbringing with her parents where they just weren't parenting, they weren't loving. So she had to be that for her siblings. She had no role models of what that looked like. She has the most love to give, but she didn't know how to receive it, which is heartbreaking to hear.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think a lot of people maybe have that perspective where they just don't know how to receive that kind of love, or they didn't have that role model of that nuclear family to pass that down. And also, like, a lot of times in my thoughts, when I see people say, oh, the world the way it is, I would never want to have kids and bring them into this world. And my thoughts are, you're exactly the person who should be having kids, because you probably have the moral compass and the values that you can raise the next generation to make the world a better place, Like they always say, the grass is greener where you water it. So like, that's how you make changes. Sometimes these bigger global issues, yeah, you could feel lost and be like, who am I? I'm just a speck of dust. But really, truly, one person can make a difference just within their own family and creating that. And like you said, you think about when you get older, just getting personal. This is the first podcast that I've done post my dad dying. It's Monday, it's 2 weeks today. And like, my dad died at 79 and he didn't die alone.
Yeah.
And like, I was there, my mom was there, my uncle was there. We have way more family than that, but like getting everyone together in a moment. But like, I'm forever grateful that I was in the room, that I was holding his hand. And I know sometimes you don't get to control when your loved one dies, so you can't always be there. But just the concept of like, I know that there are people in this world who truly don't have anyone to be there with them in that moment. And that's so sad to me.
Yeah. I do. My sister and I went to see Sarah Silverman last year, and I think this was like her second show testing out new material, but it was about her dad dying and trying to make, somewhat comedic, right?
I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
I try to make jokes about it because that's my coping mechanism.
But she went through, not agonizing detail, but she went through the full process, right? Of like having to wipe his ass at the end, right? And she's like, you know what? He wiped my ass at the beginning.
True.
That's the circle of life.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a family, you're not gonna, the circle, it's only half of the circle.
Right.
You don't get the full circle, and that's okay, right? Like half a circle is a lot more than a lot of people get. But if you have an opportunity to have a full circle, you should at least think about it.
I think that's the key.
Yeah.
It's if the opportunity comes along. I think obviously sometimes people just don't get the opportunity of meeting the right person, having the right opportunities.
And thinking about what you were saying about somebody not or being giving but not being able to receive, right?
Mhm.
You know, for a lot of men, we maybe aren't as in touch with our emotions generically. When you have a child, you can only really respond to them with emotion,
Hopefully.
right? I mean, that's all they really understand for a while. Like
Yeah.
that's the way that you communicate is with tone and with emotions, and you will relearn probably how to give and receive love in a different way than you would. You get a second chance at it in some ways.
Yeah.
Right.
It sounds like for you, fatherhood was very transformative.
Yes. I mean, I changed even my career to some degree so that I would have more opportunity to watch him grow.
That's the consulting.
Yeah, because I work out of my house instead of having to go in the office.
Mm-hmm.
Not the only reason I left my previous role, but that was one of them. And I haven't done a whole lot of homework on parenting, but everybody says they grow up so fast. I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to believe that because every single person says they grow up so fast. So put your phone down, sit with them, play with them.
Yeah.
They grow up so fast. Okay. I will take that as collective wisdom.
Yeah. And I think the other key thing is that I'm not a parent, but I am a child. So like of my parents.
Yeah.
And so this is just a funny thing to quote, but Kris Jenner from the Kardashians, she was saying about how like someone was interviewing her about the fact that her kids are like so much part of her life. A lot of times they move back into her house, all these things.
Yeah.
She's like, I didn't raise my kids for 18 years to just kick them out and not have a relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's this really interesting, I don't know what you want to call it. It's just something that I've noticed, which is that there's so much on parenting when they're young, when they're going through their preteen years, when they're teenagers. But like, I think that the most successful parents are the ones where like their adult children still want to hang out with them.
Yeah.
You know, and there's like that generational thing. And like something we were touching on before the podcast episode is like, I'm 29 and like I still live with my mom. And like, even if I was in a place financially where I could live on my own, I still would choose to live here. If I was married, that's a different story.
Sure.
But part of it is because for me, like I just think that like, especially in the American culture, there's such a big push to like be independent, move out on your own. And I think that is so lonely and so incredibly stressful financially too, where there's so much that if the relationship is healthy, living in a multi-generational home is so impactful in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
And really, if you look at most cultures, that's how they live.
Yeah, that's how it was done for a long time.
To be fair, a lot of that does have to do with finances, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But like, I had a guest earlier on who was Native American, and like he talked about how like generationally they always used to live together to the point where like the parents would be going out and working, and it was the grandparents who no longer were working would raise the kids.
Yeah.
And then according to like their traditions, they wouldn't name the kids till they were like 3 or 4 because that's when they start to show character traits.
Yeah.
And which isn't James like 4 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like right on the nose, I'm sure you're feeling that.
Yeah.
And then like that was when the grandparents would name them because they had all the wisdom, the years of experience, and they were there watching them develop. And so I think like obviously everyone has to do what's best for them. It's totally circumstantial, but I think it's really beautiful if you can to like have that relationship, because for me, like even with the loss of my dad, like obviously part of the Jewish tradition of how we deal with mourning is after the funeral, we sit for 7 days and we mourn. And during that time, the whole community comes every day to visit, to share stories, to just be there, to get food. It's like, it's a very community oriented time to like not leave the mourners alone. And so when I was there, a lot of people were commenting just on how beautiful the relationship was between me and my mom, where they're like, I thought we were close with like our kids, but just watching you guys, like there's a really beautiful relationship. But my mom and I like worked and fought for that so hard, because it's like a lot of times when you live with your parents as an adult, sometimes they think that you're going to react the same way you did when you were 12.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of people don't want to handle that. So they move out and they're like, I'm an adult. I can't. I don't like that you're treating me like a kid. I stayed because I'm like, Mom, we're fighting for this relationship. I'm an adult. You're an adult. We're going to figure this out. And it was worth it.
I left. I was just not fighting for but I was this cocky poker player, fuck the world, I'm going to do it my way
Yeah.
mentality. And
Everyone's different. There's no right or wrong way.
well, I don't know. That's probably the wrong way to approach people that you love. I don't know.
But
like,
do you find that maybe fatherhood has like changed your relationship with your own parents?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Better late than never.
It's well, I mean, I've mended things before James got there, but yeah, it definitely changes. In some ways, parents will know that grandparents become ultra obsessed with the kids, and you're like, hey, I'm still here too, right?
Okay,
like,
yeah.
it's, hey, how are you? But how's James? How's James? Like, very, very quickly, we'll go to that. That's it's to be expected though, and you should take pride in that if you're
In that stage.
Yeah, let them have it. They know that it's quick and it moves fast. Let them have it too. Like if you love them, they should let them have that.
Based on everything, like where you are right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure we talked last time, you were already saying that, especially with James, you're starting to think about legacy
Mm-hmm.
and like what you want to leave behind. 10 years from now, no limiting thoughts here, just like abundant mindset. What would your ideal life look like if everything can go right?
I feel like the next 10 years will be in my prime, from a number of different perspectives. I would, part of legacy is not just how you treat the people in your immediate family or immediate friends, but your relationship with the community, whatever you define your community as. I would like to, my community, being not a religious person, is probably in business in some ways, right? I'd like to be able to show investment in my own business or whichever business I sink into and make sure to grow that. But then also, what can that be a vehicle to create bigger change within a bigger community?
Mm-hmm.
Not the world. There's 6 billion people. I don't think I'm going to be ambitious enough to affect the 6 billion, but there's a lot that we can do within St. Louis. There's a lot that we can do even within a digital community, right? Like half of my network's in St. Louis, half's elsewhere, tending to those people, making sure that you do something that's bigger than yourself. I've come to understand that the poker player part of me that was very self-grandizing and ego-driven is not what fuels me anymore. I'm much more fueled by other people's success and being able to be part of their story.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to play a part in a lot of people's stories, if I'm at least mentioned in somewhere in the background, big or small, parts in 30 people's plays, 30 people's stories, I think that would be very rewarding to me.
Yeah. You reminded me, there was another topic that we talked about at our pregame that I was so intrigued by that was important to you, which was like the importance of like diversity in a team.
Yeah.
Because having people from different cultures, different races, different religions, it's going to affect the thoughts and the evolution
Yeah,
of a brand in a market.
sure.
And you were saying how you felt personally, how as a white man, it was important to like step up.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that exactly? And it was interesting because at first I asked you, I was like, are you coming from a place of guilt that you're feeling the need to talk about it?
Well, I think that's the stereotype, right? Is
Yeah.
that when white men, straight white men, talk about race or diversity issues, that we're coming from some place of white guilt. And for me, if maybe it comes from that or not, I don't know, right? You could go deep into some psychology, maybe it does, but I think if you want to make an impact on your community, whether that's a community of 10 or a community of 10 million, we need to go into business together. You need to practice what you preach. And for well-intentioned people, coming together and forming businesses and investing in your business partner, in your employees, in your community, we're going to have to do the hard work, right? The Delmar divide that we're on right now, you live right off Delmar,
Truly.
you know, isn't going to heal itself. And, you know, putting a blackout on Instagram is not going to do it, right? And hopes and prayers are great, but you're going to put some money into it. You're going to put some time. You're going to put some sweat equity into it. So if we believe that we want a well-intentioned, center-left leaning white guys, and anybody, right? This isn't necessarily a racial thing, but like, we're going to go to business together. That's the solve, right? Like, we need to Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre, right? Coming together to get Beats by Dre and selling it for $3 billion, right? Like, we need more of those. You got to take care of your family. You got to make sure that your bank account, it has enough in it that you can take care of yourself. But, you know, at least my operating definition of masculinity right now is being able to give more than you take. And to do that, you do need to take a little bit. You need to take the time to be physically active, to be healthy, to have enough in your bank account. You're not asking people for food money and can pay your bills.
Yeah.
So you need that base.
It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah. Get
survival is under control.
Yeah, get the survival done.
Mm-hmm.
And if you be able to do great things, and to me, great things would be lifting up 10 people. Right?
Yeah.
This is not like, you know,
like wherever you go, they always say if you're going into like greater rooms,
yeah,
take someone with you.
Yes.
Right? Like introduce someone to the next big table that you go to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been occasionally at big tables, more often at medium-sized tables. And a lot of people don't get that, right? And just because you did it before doesn't mean that you can do it again, right? So I was successful with my internet poker venture. I was successful with a dozen years at Coegi and growing that business from 1 to 75. But that doesn't mean the next thing is going to be successful necessarily either. So you can't.
Don't take it for granted when you're being successful.
Yeah,
it could be a momentary time and space.
And you also don't know what the high water mark is until it's in the rearview mirror. So you have to really. That's probably true with parenting. That's true in a lot of different ways. I mean, culturally, people like look back at the 90s as a high water mark, but you didn't know when you were at the Red Hot Chili Peppers concert in 1997 that this was the high point, right? You don't know when you're startup or in your podcast or
you don't know you don't know anything, right? But I think the cool thing is that when you have that giver spirit, no matter if you're down on your luck or you're at the high table, what was it, the big tables that you said?
Yeah.
You can always help people. It's just more about like, what can you give? but sometimes even just showing up for someone or being there for them in a small way. Just like on a personal note, just another like little story about my dad was that like there was a time when he was a very successful CPA, had his own practice, he had pawn shops, he
Mm,
had a lot of different businesses. And like I grew up with a silver spoon in my mouth till I was
yeah.
like 12.
Mm-hmm.
So hence my little taste for luxury. But then he
You're
lost it
not
all.
bougie. You don't come off bougie.
Not anymore. I love bougie though. I'm not gonna lie. I do
It's
like
fine.
that
And,
lifestyle.
and you should sit next to that and understand when it's okay
I
to
think
take a
that,
little bouge, and when you need to give
yeah,
whatever that represented to somebody to.
I think I'm in a good place where it's like, okay, so for example, my mom, I think, was a really wonderful role model in this sense because when I was 12, our family lost everything financially. My dad had to file Chapter 7. Our house was foreclosed on. We lived down the street in a very beautiful house in Gannon, and we had to move. And so many
Yeah.
people called my mom, were like, you got to divorce your husband. He's not providing for you anymore. Like, why would you be with him? My mom's like, because I love him. And you don't just abandon a man just because he can't, like, financially provide that life. And, like, my mom was just such a good role model of, like, what a real,
Yeah.
true wife should be because it's more than just money, right? And finances and being like affluent. And so we moved here, which is a beautiful apartment. We've lived here ever since. But like my mom and my dad worked through it. And there was a big adjustment to lifestyle. And for like the first time, like when, I grew up going to Jewish schools, which are private, they're very expensive. My dad paid for me to have full tuition. He paid for both my brothers, who are really his stepsons, to
Mm-hmm.
have full tuition. And he even paid for other kids behind the scenes privately who couldn't afford full tuition. Like
Yeah.
that's how well he was doing, to us all being on academic scholarships after that.
Mm-hmm.
And like it was just he just was like an incredible man who he like always worked for his family. And like even at the end of the day, like he was an Uber driver and that's what he did, because if that's what it took to like support his family, that's what he did. So I think for me, when I got into the big girl corporate world and I was making like a really nice salary, I was spending so much money because like for the first time I had access to
Yeah.
like that kind of money. So I was just, and with no financial literacy at all. And then at 26, kind of similar to you, is when I
Mm-hmm.
had that, oh, like I can't just be stupid with my money and like no one's gonna come save me. Like let me be financially responsible and pay off my debt. Let me start looking into investing and savings and like learn about life, which was challenging. And it's like I know that I enjoy a bougie lifestyle, but I also just look at finances as like a fun challenge where it's like, what do I really need? I loved having extensions and I loved, getting my nails done all the time and all these kinds of things and working out at Lifetime. But it's like, what do I actually need?
Are you making fun of me because I work out at Lifetime
Yeah.
still?
It's okay, but
I may have went to Lifetime before I came over here.
did you?
Yeah.
Good for you. Finally use that membership that you weren't using. No, but it's so crazy. Like I definitely couldn't afford Lifetime when I was going there, but I was just like really obsessed with that like opulent kind of lifestyle and like wanting to like brush shoulders with the successful people. And like when I went there, I would meet people who would be like, yeah, I took a month off. I'm paying for it, but I just didn't feel like working out this month. I was going every day because I did the math and I'm like, it's like getting a Starbucks every day if I go 6 days a week.
Yep.
And yeah, it's just, you never know what people are going through when they're in a space. And I just decided I didn't want to live above my means. And it's just been a learning curve. So it's like, I'm not bougie in maybe my energy that I give off because I've learned to be realistic, but that doesn't mean I don't enjoy it, you know?
Well,
But I can learn to
I
live
mean,
off of less.
I'm in marketing. I'm a capitalist. Like, I think there's nothing wrong with going for it, right? I mean, I'd say the link between poker and marketing is some drive for money, and that's what the scoreboard is. It's the scoreboard of America. There's nothing wrong with going for it. I think there
Right.
is something a little distasteful for me at this point in splashing it around and making it ego driven. And if it is,
Correct.
if you're like, hey, I can
fine
build
line.
something, in particular as an entrepreneur, if you can build something that supports dozens or hundreds of people's lives and their dreams and their family and the four walls that they have, that's not given today either, right? I mean, talk about opulence. I mean, it's not like America's exceptionalism is guaranteed 5, 10, 20 years from now either. This may be the time, the only time we have in front of us to be able to provide for yourself and for your
Yeah.
family and for your community, because things could go, this is not guaranteed, right? Like this
Nothing's
is
guaranteed.
this is part of the short-mindedness of our history. This can go to shit. There could be war here, right?
It can.
Like it.
I tend to be a positive person though. Like,
I do too.
you know, I like to believe that, you know, the thing is Tony Robbins once said that no matter what happens in the world, whether it's war or like the worst calamities ever, people who are successful, it's a mindset, which is that they can find opportunity in anything, right? So I think the most important skill set that you could have in life is the ability to be adaptable.
Yeah.
You know, and like the one thing about my dad, I always said, is that he had a heart of gold. He just didn't have the pockets to match. And so even in his like later years, when he didn't have the financial abundance, he was such a giver. And so during the funeral, during Shiva, when people were coming and telling us stories, that's what everyone was talking about. No one cared about how financially successful he was or what cars he drove or anything like that. It was just like, he was a good dude.
Yeah.
He just was a good man and who was always like, and even at the end when he had dementia and like people, you know, he wasn't necessarily having these deep conversations like you and I are having, but he was just such a loving person. Every single person he saw, he's like, we love you so much. He's like, how you doing? And he would just have this, like, they say like your aura is like 88 inches around you. His presence made people feel so good. He was a really cool person. And I think like that really affected me, where when I was trying to figure out how old I was. And I was working corporate, and I told you about this. This was how I got into podcasting and coffee in the first place. Like where I made that switch was, I'm good at graphic design, but it doesn't bring me joy. And I didn't feel like I was doing that impact like you're talking about and changing the world. But I wasn't one of those people that had this side hobby or hustle that was super rewarding or that set my soul on fire. So my life coach had a podcast at the time, and there was a live episode, and I asked the question. And I remember I didn't listen for like 2 weeks because my voice was shaking.
Yeah.
And I was like, what does my voice sound like? That's so scary, which is ironic because now I literally do this. But I was like, what do you do when what you do you're good at, but it doesn't set your soul on fire? And even just like getting off the stage afterwards, after I'd asked that question, there was something about that mic that I was like, oh, this is part of it. And so for me, it's like these conversations about having these soul level conversations about transformation, about your story, about what sets your soul on fire, so powerful to me. And it's like, I could be a shy person sometimes, which nobody seems to believe me when I say that, but I am. I'm very shy. But like, everyone says yes to a podcast. So I get 2 conversations that are really meaningful with people. So at the very least, like it's just a little in.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, God, that's, you asked, does this have to make money? Technically, no, but I would love for it to, so that I can just do this because it brings me so much joy. And then the coffee is just a continuation of that, because like I went to a coffee shop where for the first time I saw the power of community, where it's like, as the barista, you see so many different people and they weirdly open up to you about a lot.
Sure.
And so it's like,
sure, the bartender feels
same way.
that.
It's the same thing. So it's like, can you imagine a coffee shop where I can create this community of people, where I could connect people, where we can host events, where we can make people feel a little less lonely, you know? So that's my passion. So that's what I'm working towards. But I also know that like I don't care what people say. Money makes a difference. I always tell God, I'm like, use me as a vessel because I can do so much good with it. And the thing is that like it just opens opportunities for you to be able to do more.
Yeah.
And like, who was it? There was some celebrity, and I can't remember who it is right now, where he said that money doesn't change you. Everyone thinks it does, but it doesn't. Money just brings out who you really are. When you're the small guy at a company, you're the first one in, you're the first one out, you're kissing up to everyone. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, doing what you got to do. But then as you start to rise, your ego starts to rise because you can be who you always were because there's no one to kiss up to because now you're the big man in town.
Well, I'm not sure I 100% agree with that.
Really?
There was, I do in some ways. Like there were, like at least in my rise from associate specialist to senior vice president, one, I never felt like I was the big guy because there was always a bigger guy. There's always a bigger guy,
That's fair.
right? Like even the president of the United States has to answer to the people, right? Like maybe this president doesn't feel that way, but
There's certain
there's
checks and
always
balances.
a bigger guy or gal.
Yeah.
What I do agree though is as you climb the corporate ladder, the egos and the infighting get worse. Like it's like the fighting happened a lot more and a lot more intensely with the VP level than it did with the directors or entry level or managers or whatever.
Yeah, I've seen people change as they rose in position.
Yeah,
The ego comes out a lot.
it does. But that's not.
Sometimes
I don't think that's true for everybody. That maybe is directionally correct, but
that's what I'm saying. If who you are at your core is a person who loves themselves, has a good self-esteem, has a good heart, you won't become that egotistic person.
well, but the ego does feed you. The people who, because I'm actually very fortunate in the last 2 years, but I haven't talked too much about what I'm necessarily doing now, but I one-man show and can kind of free agent into working in projects with whoever I want, right? Wherever there's opportunity. And I get to have a lot of coffees and a lot of frank conversations that don't have any, I'm representing the company ethos with it, right? So it's just me. So I've got to wipe off the veneer in a lot of ways. And I'm also very fortunate that I have a couple of great mentors, just that have naturally came through. And look, the ego is what drives people, right? Like, and ego is, in my opinion, insecurity. It's masked insecurity, right?
For sure.
And the people at the top or whatever, they all have some egos.
For sure.
But there are people, I think it's balance, right? You do need to have a self-assurance. You need to have confidence. You need to
self-worth.
Yeah, you need to be able to take a bet on yourself, whatever those things are. But you need to balance that with putting the elevator back down, doing something bigger than yourself, understanding the value of community, understanding the value of two-way mentorship, because you learn just as much from who you're mentoring as they learn from you. To be a balanced leader. I've been reading a lot, like I said, a lot more history books, and there are a lot of assholes who have ran a lot of companies for a long time, and they've mostly been white men, at least in the last 50 to 100 years in America. But I at least have a vision for how you can be a balanced, driven, empathetic, not pushover leader that balances the needs of stakeholders and investors or whatever, and making sure that we're playing capitalism and having profit, but not ignoring the needs of the other stakeholders in the world, the community, your employees, the earth, and not trashing the fucking place, right? Like, there is an empathetic way to do this. And
we're saying the same thing. I believe that people can be leaders. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I'm just saying when people get the opportunity to be in leadership positions,
they're not prepared for it or something.
That happens too, right? And I think maybe that's where the negative ego comes out, right? Because if someone is in a leadership position and they're making a buku bucks and they have all this power, but like they haven't really earned it, it's almost like this bread of shame, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Like they're like, I haven't earned this. So then they're like wondering what people are thinking. Are they judging? Are they thinking badly of them? So then they almost have to.
Well, this is what I think actually happens is that you have what's the quote that's attributed to Mike Tyson about it? You always have a plan until you get punched in the face.
Okay.
And what happens is that you're riding up the corporate ladder, everything's good, all growth, and then suddenly, like, somebody decides that you're their enemy, and they're coming after you.
Had that.
And you're like, oh, but this has been a nice. And this is not me recounting any like past trauma or something.
I've had this happen to me.
It's not, but I've seen it happen to others in other organizations a lot. That suddenly there's a rivalry that you didn't think was there, and you're having to react to somebody who's like trying to take you down.
Truly, yep.
Trying to elbow position or suddenly like
you're a threat.
Yeah, suddenly you're like, oh, I'm playing this like more high stakes game than
right, and it's like all I want to do is do my job.
Yeah, like I spent 5-6 years just being good and competent and being
friendly with everyone,
and then suddenly it became negative or it became territorial and that's when you have to like. I mean, everybody like it's same with like ethics, right? Like it's easy to be ethical when everything's going well. But it's harder when there's temptation.
For sure.
Right? Like it's easy to be a good leader until you're in a adversarial relationship with somebody that you got to play nice to, right? Like it becomes more complicated. Or if the company that you're working for is suddenly under stress, right? Because there's competitors out there that so there's a couple different layers to it. So it's good to have a plan. It's good to have a good head on your shoulders, but it's also how you're going to react during adversity. And managing all these kind of layers of factors is what gets people into trouble.
Have you heard the analogy of the carrot, the egg, and the coffee bean?
You have a coffee bean analogy?
I do.
Really?
Yeah, shocking.
Can't believe it. Okay.
Have you heard this?
No.
So there's this analogy that this grandmother was sharing with her granddaughter about how different people react differently to adversity. So you have boiling water and you add in a carrot. A carrot is hard on the outside, but then once you put it into the adversity, the hot water, it becomes soft.
Yeah.
It changes it.
Yeah.
The opposite happens with the egg, right? The egg becomes like more, it was liquid and then becomes mushy on the inside, or harder, I should say.
Yeah.
And so, but a coffee bean changes the whole environment around it. So when you have the choice with adversity, do you want to be like the egg, the carrot, or the coffee bean?
What do you want to be?
The coffee bean.
Of course
obviously.
I want to be the coffee bean too.
Obviously. Anyways. How to put that
but the coffee, and I'm just thinking about this metaphor, stream of consciousness. Is the coffee bean cocky because it thinks that it can change everybody and everybody should be like it? And
no.
in fact is.
I think real change, going back to like our earlier conversation, as a leader, as a human impact, happens when there's change within ourselves.
Yeah.
When we're not letting external situations, whether it's work, whether it's the world going to shit, whatever it is, when you have your core values and your self-worth and you know who you are, and despite the odds, you're still a good person, you're giving back how you can with what you have, the world has no choice but to react to that.
Mm-hmm.
How's that for stream of consciousness?
That's good.
Thanks.
It's very good.
Thanks.
I don't even have a good retort.
Thanks. That's the best compliment you can give an Aries. Okay, so before we close off, I do want to give you the opportunity, because I shared how I asked a life-changing question that set off the whole trajectory of my life. And you mentioned that you can relate because you had an opportunity at one time to stand up in front of everyone and ask a question. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's been a couple moments in my life. I was saying this, you were asking if I regretted dropping out of college. No, I mean, that was something, that was a move, that was a chance that I took. It's always the chances that you don't take, right? And I can think of dozens of small regrets that I had, but the one that I mentioned to you was that I was at a marketing conference. I was with my old boss, Sean. It was at the Association of National Advertisers Media Conference. There's probably 1,000 people there. And they have brands go up and talk about what they did in the last year. And it's very self-grandizing and, you know, is what it is. So the NFL got up and they were talking about some senior vice president of marketing about how well the NFL was doing in 2019 with minorities and with women. And they had some studies that they showed that their popularity had increased year over year, 15% with women and 12% with minorities. And I thought that smelled of bullshit. This was during Colin Kaepernick issue, where they blackballed him out of the league for kneeling during the national anthem. This is, you know, a couple years after the Rams had left St. Louis, you know, leaving a black neighborhood to go to a $2 billion castle in LA. Also, the LA Rams are now worth $10 billion. They're the second most valuable team in the league, I read today. And, you know, they had several players that had really gruesomely, you know, violently beat up women, like that they had video of in the elevator in Vegas or whatever, you know, were still in the league, gotten new contracts. They had, like, one player that I'm thinking of, I think, got a 10-game suspension, not even the full year. And this was all kind of happening. I'm like, man, I should ask him. I even leaned to my boss. I was like, I should go up there and like, you're full of shit, right? Or at least take the mic and answer the question. And I got nervous about it, knowing there was 1,000 people there, that I was also representing 100 people at Coegi. If this was looked poorly upon, that I would be somebody who, an agency folk that would be talking bad about a brand, about brands, maybe we wouldn't get as much business. I had all these thoughts and excuses on why I just sat on my hands and didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And I regret it. Somebody should have looked at that asshole and said, why the fuck did you leave St. Louis? Why did you leave us the way that you did? And the hypocrisy is very tough to stomach here. Like,
right.
And those are the moments I look back at with more regret. It's always the stuff that you don't do.
Right, for sure. And I think that's, especially with asking questions, like this was just something that was kind of ingrained in me from like as a young child, which is if you have a question, you should ask it because someone else probably has it too.
Yeah.
You know, so like you can't go back, you can't change it, but you put it out here to my very small but loyal audience so they hear the question.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're not moving forward, that if you have the opportunity to ask the hard questions, you will.
Yeah, there's always little things. And it's tough. It's tough to know when, because part of why I didn't ask too was like, is this an ego? Is this just me trying to get attention? Is this me wanting to get a write up in Ad Age? Because I knew the Ad Age guy was sitting next to me. He would have written it down. Like, so there's these opportunities and threats are very close.
Right.
It's
tough
to know ahead of time which one is which.
Yeah. Listen, it happened.
Yep.
It didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
But moving forward, you'll figure it out. You have that opportunity next to ask the next hard-hitting question that comes to your gut.
Hopefully.
You'll know when it's right.
Yeah. Hopefully I will. And hopefully I'll, that's having moral compass under pressure to some degree too, right?
I'm really into, I can't believe I waited this long to talk about it. I'm really into like Kabbalah. That's like the spirituality that I'm into.
Mm-hmm.
And like one thing that has given me a lot of comfort from the study was that it talks about how like regret and shame is the worst thing, right? So like, let's say you do something that's wrong, a sin. Don't just be a bad person and keep doing it. Obviously, that's not what it's saying. But it's even worse to live in regret and shame.
Yeah.
Learn from it, apologize, become a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like thinking back on this question where you're like, regret, should I have done that? Maybe, don't regret it, Whoever you were at that time, you did the best you could with who you were and what you knew at the time. But now moving forward, if an opportunity like that happens, you feel that it would be impactful, try it.
Yeah.
See what happens.
I agree. It's tough with people with imposter syndrome too.
Who doesn't have imposter syndrome?
Yeah, everybody has. Yeah.
I think the hardest thing about being an entrepreneur is that you don't have confidence because you haven't earned it. Confidence is earned.
Yeah.
You're just keep putting yourself out there, and it's not something
even
you just
when you
have.
earn it, you don't always feel like you actually did or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of had that recently with my podcast because a guest was referring another guest on who's starting her own business, and he thought it would be a great opportunity for her to like speak about her brand and another outlet to put herself out there. And I was like, yes, please. I'm always looking for another guest, And I love doing this. I love meeting people. And then she had told him, she was like, I don't know if I'm big enough yet to be on a podcast. And I was like, Miss Ma'am, I'm nobody. Like, I'm a corporate girl who bought 2 mics that sometimes don't work. But there is a certain confidence that has been earned through doing this. Like, do things go wrong all the time with my podcast? Absolutely. But I'm going to just keep chugging along.
Well, what's also tough nowadays, at least when I was younger, I didn't care about earning my stripes or something. I knew I had to fake it till I made it, and I didn't give a shit.
Okay.
All the 20s and the dropping out and getting back into marketing, like I didn't have this voice in the back of the head. That would developed later, and that's a silly voice, right? Or it can't be completely silly. It's got to be some defense mechanism, and there's a purpose for it. But like, I don't know. I'd be hypocrite. Some of my advice to younger people in particular is probably hypocritical. Where somebody just got into marketing, they don't know anything, or they haven't had any experience, but they got to pretend on social that they do. That never bothered me back in the day, but now it bothers me now when I actually do have 15 years experience doing it. So it's very strange how it flips.
Yeah, but I think that's just kind of life, right? Different seasons, different experiences. You just view the world differently. I'm sure when you're 80, you'll have a very different perspective on the version of you now, If
I can be so lucky, yes.
This is true. So I have this tradition with my podcast.
Mm-hmm.
The whole basis of this podcast is based on this Hebrew quote, which is Ezehu Chacham Halomei Mikol Adam, which means one who is wise is one who learns from everyone. So if you can leave us with one last favorite quote or life lesson.
But I go back to like, we have to build things together. Like if you got to put your money where your mouth is.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to build meaningful relationships, if you want to build something that's bigger than yourself, and if you want to take on any injustice, or it's not even the right word, but if you want to do something about your own predicament or the community's predicament, you have to build things together. You need to go into business together. You need to do it in the capitalist way. That's the way to grow things.
Change happens when you take action.
You got to build something. And it's not in platitudes. It's not in well wishes. It's in actually doing it.
So we've talked on so many different things today. Before we wrap up, is there anything that you feel that we haven't touched that you still would like to touch on?
I feel like we've covered.
Right?
Yeah.
We covered a lot.
There's nothing else that I got at the tip of my tongue.
That's okay. That's great. So how can we support you? Where can everyone find you?
I'm not on too much on social. If you didn't pick up on that vibe, I am going to begrudgingly pick LinkedIn back up. I've even sat a year off on LinkedIn. I definitely favor places where you are not anonymous on the internet versus ones where you are.
Okay.
And because you have your resume and your, 35.
The transparency.
There's a lot of transparency on LinkedIn, so that's a place where I'm gonna go back. So if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, that would be nice, but you don't have to. It's fine.
I'll share all the details in the bio. Can we also talk about the fact that you are going to be redoing your podcast?
Yes, I am going to start the podcast again, which honestly is a conduit to just get video content on social, probably more than anything.
For sure.
I'll still throw full episodes up to do so. But vertical video even on LinkedIn seems to be dominating. So
you're not going to be at first sharing your podcast on the typical streaming platforms.
I'll still share it on there.
Okay.
But
what's the name of the podcast?
The Last Splash podcast. My business, The Last Splash.
There we go.
So when that restarts, most of the action should be in the 30-60-second clips
on LinkedIn. Which will have everyone subscribe.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
This has been a pleasure. So guys, if you're not already subscribed, what are you doing with your life? Specifically on YouTube, that's where I'm trying to grow my following. And if you're not currently watching, the video is on YouTube and Spotify. So please go give me a follow, like this video, and share with a friend. Hope you guys have a great week. Let's get it.